So how long does it actually take to get rich? You've been told getting rich quick is impossible. The only way to actually make money is to study hard all of your life, get good grades, then get a good job, and slowly work your way up in the company to become, let's say, a CEO. And one day, after decades of slave-like hours, you will be successful. You'll have all the money in the world, you'll be able to do whatever you want, and you will be respected and admired by others. The truth is, all of that is a lie. And in fact, more and more big companies, we're talking Google, Meta, Apple, are laying off more and more employees every single year. In fact, in the last year alone, over 100,000 people have lost their jobs. And it's not like they were taxi drivers, Deliveroo riders, they weren't working entry-level jobs. We're talking about people working in tech, in some of the biggest companies in the world. Lots of them making over 6 figures a year. Now, to answer the question, if you follow that path, you'll never get rich. And if you do work extremely hard, because you've got an insane work ethic, you're part of that minority who does the work and over a long period of time without ever giving up, then fair enough, after decades of 12-hour work days, of working on the weekends, of never taking any breaks, any vacations, never having any hobbies outside of work, or any time for your friends and for your family, you will become successful. But then one day, you're gonna open up social media and see those 15-year-olds, 20-year-old kids having the time of their lives, and they make in a month what you make in a year. How will that make you feel? Now, if we put all the trust fund kids, the lucky kids aside, a lot of them are actually self-made. And the only reason why they're able to make in a month what you make in a year, it's because they started an online business. Like, I'm not gonna beat around the bush. If you wanna make a lot of money, you don't have 10,000 different ways to do it. And that's especially more relevant if you wanna make a lot of money while you're young. Growing up, I've always had this burning desire to be free. I wanted to understand the world, the rules of the game, so I could use them to my own advantage instead of being like most people and getting crushed by life. As a kid, I saw all of the adults around me working dead-end jobs, being underpaid, undervalued. They were literally treated like slaves, like commodities. My mother is a nursing assistant. I've seen her go to the hospital at night, work 12-hour shifts, destroying her health in the process, only to be treated like a literal slave, like an object. And the worst part about it, it's that it's the people receiving free healthcare who treat the nursing assistants like that. Like they throw a temper tantrum because they want to get McDonald's at 3 a.m. when they've got diabetes and they're following a strict diet. Or worse, they even want to take drugs in the room. They want to go smoke. My father's a nurse. I saw him all of his life complaining about his job endlessly. He was miserable, and in the process, he developed many addictions, many vices. And all of that led to a not so happy family at home. We had no freedom, could barely afford anything, had to sleep in a basement infested with rats in the summer because it would get so hot inside the house. In school, I was bullied. People made fun of me. They treated me horribly because of my appearance back then. So if you looked at my life early on, you wouldn't think I was destined to achieve a lot of things. You'd think I'd just end up a complete loser. And for a while, that's exactly what I was. I was undisciplined. I couldn't stick to any positive habit. I felt weak. I looked weak. And so to cope with my reality, my tragic reality, I developed many vices, many addictions in the process too. That's what I saw all the people around me doing. That's the only way they could cope with their horrible lives. But deep down, I had a dream. I wanted to be able to wake up every single day and pick my own schedule. Decide I was going to do exactly what I wanted during the whole day. And maybe it sounded like a stupid, childish fantasy, but I didn't want to end up like the people like me, working a dead-end job for a boss who would treat me horribly, customers that wouldn't care about me, all of that to be underpaid, undervalued. You just work to pay rent, to pay taxes, but not to actually live life, to enjoy your life. And the worst part about it, school was preparing us all along to follow that exact path, the path that leads to misery and to poverty. But I wasn't going to accept that. I wasn't going to accept this cookie-cutter path and just shut my mouth. I wanted a better life. And in my mind, because I had such a horrible past, I could only have a great future because I deserved it. I thought life owes it to me. And obviously, it's kind of a foolish way of thinking because technically speaking, life doesn't owe you anything. Life is profoundly unfair. Life doesn't care about you. Life doesn't care if you're happy, if you're sad. It couldn't care less. There isn't an invisible force trying to make you miserable because it has something against you personally. Life is just the way it is. But you can either decide to let your circumstances destroy you or do whatever the hell it takes to elevate yourself because no one is going to come and save you. That's a guarantee. So as a kid, I knew that in this world, if I wanted to be free, I needed to make a shit ton of money. So I made it my mission to study the wealthy, the ultra successful, even top athletes, Navy SEALs, to understand why they were able to achieve so much more than the average person. Because let's face it, it's not like all of them got started with the best circumstances in life. A lot of them, in fact, they had terrible circumstances, sometimes even worse than mine. Yet they were able to achieve 1,000 times more, a million times more than the average person. Why? How was that even possible? So I made it my mission motivation to make money. Because I can tell you for a fact, when you don't have money, your life is extremely tough. You'll be forced to work entry-level jobs that no one wants to work. Like, you'll have to do the most gruesome things ever. You'll have to get up at the weirdest hours, like go work at a factory at 4 a.m. But you'll also work long hours. You'll miss out on spending time with your friends, with your family, on having some hobbies. You'll be stuck in this hamster wheel, literally working to pay rent, to pay taxes, and to keep working. Is that even a life? You're not living, you're surviving. And what if someone in your family needs an expensive medical intervention? Let's say they need expensive medicine which is not covered by their insurance. What then? If you're broke, you can't help them? You can't do anything. In fact, you'll feel powerless. It's the worst possible thing that can happen to you, because if you had money, you could help them. You could literally save their life. So how did I go from being a shy, a broke, depressed, anxious kid to now running a profitable online business and having the time of my life? It didn't happen overnight, but slowly every single day I started to force myself to get the hell out of my comfort zone. I forced myself to improve my skill level. Every single day I started to push past my fears. If I was afraid of calling people on the phone, literally speaking on the phone, I would force myself to do it. Because of the shit I went through, at some point I was so anxious I couldn't even leave my parents' house. That's how bad it got. I remember sending my best friend a video of me walking in the woods, and he replied, "Oh my god, you got out of your house? That's massive progress." That's how bad it was for me back then. I literally couldn't take a walk outside without those intense feelings of anxiety. I couldn't speak to people, I was too afraid of it. Yet if you met me today, you would swear I'm an extrovert. When that couldn't be further from the truth. I'm very much an introvert, and I will still be an introvert years down the line. That's probably never gonna change. And the reason why I'm telling you this, it's not to brag. I couldn't care less about it. I'm trying to show you what it's truly possible to accomplish in a few years of dedicated hard work. If you put your focus on the right things, on improving every aspect of your life, you won't even recognize yourself. Your life will be so different, you'll look back and thank your younger self for putting in the work and making the necessary sacrifices. Like anything you want, you can achieve it. If you're skinny or skinny fat, even obese, you can build the body of your dreams. It's just gonna take more hard work and more time than you think. If you're lonely, you want to find the love of your life. You want to have a fulfilling and a loving relationship. It can happen, but because you don't believe in yourself, you won't even go talk to someone else. You won't even try. You'll reject yourself. You'll fail before you even start. If you want to make a lot of money, you want to be free. It's probably the case if you clicked on this video, and if you're still watching right now. It can happen, but it's probably gonna take a lot more work and also longer than you think. So how long is it really going to take for you to get rich? It really depends on which path you're following. If your goal is to save money, and that's how you're gonna get rich, you'll never be rich. Because it's one thing to save money. You could save, let's say, $10,000 a year. That would be huge. I mean, most people can't do that. They live paycheck to paycheck. But let's say you manage to do that, theoretically. So then what? Are you rich? Will you ever be rich? In 10 years, you'd have 100k. But with inflation, it would be more like you have 60k. And that money, it's not going to multiply itself on its own. Now what about if you invest in the stock market? Let's say every month you put $200 in the stock market. You'll be rich, yeah. In 60 years, maybe you'll have $4 million in the bank. But to be able to access that money, you'll need to pay taxes on top of all of that. Again, the government wants its share, don't forget about that. And with inflation, your buying power will actually have decreased. So what $2 million can buy today, it won't be able to buy tomorrow. And so if you want to get rich when you're 80, fine, follow that path. Now what about getting a high-paying career in a big corporation, working your way through, becoming a CEO, a CFO? Fair enough, after decades of slave-like hours, we're talking 12-hour days, even working on the weekends, you could make 6 figures a year. But you would need to get one of the best jobs in one of the best companies, so the competition is extremely rough. You'd need to be at the office before everyone and leave after everyone. So least to say that if you want to build a great body, you want to have some hobbies, you want to spend time with your friends, with your family, you won't even be able to do that. That's how cutthroat the corporate world is. And you could even work extremely hard, but someone else gets a promotion. Why? Because they're a friend of the boss or a family member. When you worked hard and you deserve it. But life is profoundly unfair. Hard work doesn't guarantee in any way that you'll ever become successful. And let's say you do manage it. You make 6 figures a year working for a big corporation. Then what? You drive a Benz to the office every day. But how much freedom do you have? Can you just take a vacation whenever you want? Can you buy a house cash? No, you can't. Your family will probably miss you because you spend so much time at work, you don't even have any time for them. And the people who work the most, they also have the highest divorce rate. So that really tells you something. At some point I remember with my father, we saw some Teslas around. And my parents being nurses and my mother a nursing assistant, they never had a Tesla. It's like they couldn't afford that kind of car. So we had the basic low-tier cars. They weren't worth more than $20,000. And he said that, oh, we see Teslas pretty often now. And I explained to him, well, those people, the thing is, they might have a Tesla. Maybe they're a doctor, a lawyer. They make 5k per month. So they get it on finance. But they're not free. They're literally the same as you with just a better car. But they didn't buy it cash. They're better paid slaves. That's literally it. So at the time, when I told him that, it really made him realize something. So what do you actually need to do if you want to get rich fast and while you're young? That is the question I asked myself during my whole childhood. But little did I know, I would soon find out the answer. One day, as I was browsing YouTube, I just had the idea to type how to get rich. And then I stumbled upon a video that changed my life. It was a French YouTuber explaining how he made 50 to 70k per month with his own online business. And you might think, oh, the guy's a scam, obviously it's a lie, it can't be true. But in that video, I remember it especially vividly. He showed us exactly how much money he made by showing us the Stripe dashboard. So it wasn't fake, it was all there. The guy was traveling all the time, going to Canada, and I was looking at him and being like, wow, that is what I want to do. That's the freedom that I want. And that's when I realized that is the path for me, to start an online business. Now at the time, starting an online business wasn't like it is today. There weren't 10,000 people making videos about it online. So at the time, it's not like I had a guide showing me all the pros, all the cons of every online business model and analyzing it so I could decide which one is the best to start for me. But luckily for you, that's exactly what I've done. I've recorded a free guide in which I analyze every popular online business model. We take a look at the pros, at the cons, and I'm also going to share with you for completely free the 3-step process that you can use to get your first customers literally starting today. Click on the first link in the description below if you want to know more about it. Now another question we can ask is how long will it take to get to $10,000 per month? Honestly, it's going to depend on a wide variety of factors. One question that you need to ask yourself is how much are you willing to sacrifice? The bigger your goals, the higher the level of dedication and of hard work that will be required. I mean, you can't expect to want to be a Michael Jordan, to do better than 99.9% of people and not have to work harder and longer than 99.9% of people. And it's also really going to depend on which business model you start, because with some business models, getting to 10k per month, you only need a couple customers to do that, while with other businesses, you'll need thousands, and it's infinitely easier to convince a few people to pay you a lot of money as opposed to having a lot of people paying you a medium amount of money. And it also depends on your current circumstances. I'm not gonna lie to you, if right now you're dirt poor, you can't even afford a $5 Starbucks coffee, for you it's gonna be harder than somebody who was born, let's say, in a first world country, or someone who's got $2,000 to invest in his business, and let's say has more free time. It's really going to depend on your unique circumstances. However, you're not allowed to use your present circumstances to justify why you're not where you want to be in life, because all the small choices that you've made in the past, they all added up and compounded to create your present life. Your future life is being created by what you're doing right now. So ask yourself this question: are the things that I'm doing every single day helping me to get exactly what I want in the future? If the answer is no, you need to rethink your priorities. Now I want to share with you the 2 biggest mistakes that killed my growth for the longest time ever. The first mistake I made is that I listened to my doubts, to my fears, and I procrastinated getting started for way too long. Before I started a business that changed my life, which was to sell services online, I procrastinated for 7 months. Why? Because at the time, like I said, I was really anxious. I was afraid of talking to people, because I was afraid of getting humiliated again, bullied again, like in my childhood. After a lot of soul searching, that's what I've realized. I was afraid of repeating the same patterns, feeding the same negative emotions that killed me inside when I was a kid. So of course my brain, to protect me, it prevented me from taking the risk and going ahead and starting a business. But that's exactly how I ended up wasting 7 precious months of my life. Because of fear, because I wasn't bold enough. So please don't make the same mistake. Go and start today. Do something, at least one thing, that will get you closer to getting what you want. If you've got no clue about business, you're a complete beginner, go watch the video I made. It's the first link in the description below. It can truly change your life. Now mistake number 2, and this one is especially relevant for most beginners, is constantly jumping from one business opportunity to the next. At some point, I had serious shiny object syndrome. It means when you're constantly jumping between different business opportunities, you literally can't do one thing. But guess what? To become successful at one thing, you need to become good at that thing. But that only ever happens with repetition and constant practice. And if you can't focus on one thing, hold on that for months and for years, you'll never actually be successful. You'll never see any progress. Whenever you start something in life, whether it's building a great body at the gym, whether it's learning a new language, a new instrument, it's gonna take you at least a few weeks, a few months to start to make initial progress. But if you quit every single week, you're never gonna make any progress. So please stick to one thing, one business model, sell one product or one service, and focus on that until it actually works. So if you want my best advice, this is it. Pick one business model, preferably sell services online, because your profit margins are very high. Customers pay you a very large amount of money per transaction, so you don't need that many customers to get to 10k per month. With 5 customers paying you $2,000 per month, you could already be making 10k per month. And all of that without having all of the downsides of having a high-paying job. And you could do that in your 20s. With a traditional career, you'd need to be at the very least 30 years old if you're lucky, more like 40, 50 years old. And then you stick with that business model for 12 months. Honestly, in 12 months, you can change your life. You just need to be willing to put your head down and to do the work. So with that said, what are you waiting for? It's time to get to work.